Okay, A.J. Brown. I want to talk about A.J. Brown. It's pretty interesting. He finished as the number 5 wide receiver in fantasy, number 7 per game last year. He's, based on the last 2 drafts that we've done now, mid-round 2. He went 16th overall, A.J. Brown, in yesterday's draft, right after Davante Adams and just ahead of Garrett Wilson. You get these sort of proven guys and Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Davante Adams. Then after that, A.J. Brown is definitely proven, although last year was certainly his best. And then you get Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But do you trust A.J. Brown, guys, as a top 20 overall pick, Dave?
Yes, without question. He's the top dog in Philadelphia's passing game. I don't see Philadelphia making Jalen Hurts the highest paid quarterback in the league. And they didn't make a big splash in their run game. And then they're going to go back to the run a little bit more and not let Hurts be the MVP of the team. I don't see that happening. A.J. Brown, 17.6 PPR points per game, career best for him his first year in Philadelphia. Head coach is still the play caller in Philly, and that didn't change this offseason. And I think Brown's just going to continue to pick up a lot of targets. He was 16th in targets per game among wide receivers last year. That number has room to grow, and that's scary to think about. And he was also good whether Goddard was healthy or not. You can go back and look at, I think, his best game of the year. Goddard was on the field. So was Devontae Smith. This is going to continue to be a pass-leaning offense that A.J. Brown's going to be the top target getter in.
Yeah.
The only thing
I just don't know about the targets having room.
Yeah.
That's
I was going to say the same thing. That's the only thing I would probably disagree with is that unless they just completely flip and become such a pass-heavy team, which I don't know if that's going to change. Like you said, Dave, still the same coach, still the same play caller. And as much as they paid Jalen Hurts, I still think they want him to be the same type of player that he was last year and run something of a similar offense than they ran last year because it was awesome. And so as long as Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert stay healthy, because we even saw it, it's not like his target spiked when Goddard wasn't there. So that's the only reason that you would maybe fear A.J. Brown is that does he not produce at the same level? Does 11 touchdowns go to maybe 8? And does Devontae Smith grow in his 3rd season? Does Dallas Goedert, maybe take a little bit more because he plays a full season? And that's a little bit of a problem. And so, I think you trust him because, as Dave said, he is the top guy in this offense. He's paired with an MVP candidate. They may throw the ball a little bit more just because of their run game being a little bit suspect, at least based on what it looks like on paper right now. But I think you're just looking at A.J. Brown. Yes, Adam, I would take him as a top 20 pick. Yes, I think he belongs right after that group of the elite wide receivers. I think he's just one tier down, and that's not an insult by any stretch. It's just that he's in a crowded offense that's not going to be as pass heavy as some of those other guys. So to me, if you go running back round 1, A.J. Brown round 2, you should be pretty happy about the start that you have, or even Travis Kelce and A.J. Brown 1 and 2. So I love the setup for him.
Yeah, I brought this guy up because we don't talk too much about A.J. Brown. I sort of take him for granted. I am a little bit worried about him as a 2nd-round pick, as a top 20 pick, because he had the 2nd most touchdown catches last year of 25 or more yards behind only Davante Adams. So he was pretty big play reliant. And a lot of the advantages that he had over Devontae Smith in the first half of the year disappeared in the second half of the year. In fact, I think it was the last 9 games, basically starting with the game in which Dallas Goedert got hurt. Devontae Smith, I'm pretty sure, had more targets. And then in the playoffs, Jalen Hurts was pretty bad. He wasn't nearly himself. He was playing hurt. In the playoffs, the targets were very even between the 3 of them, and not what you're looking for on a team that was 23rd in pass attempts. I think
it's concentrated targets, though. It's him, it's Smith, it's Goddard.
He averaged 20.9 PPR points per game in the last 6 of the regular season.
Yeah, he was great, but I'm saying I see some issues here because I think
2 of those came with Minshew, though.
2 of those came with Minshew. Some of them probably came without Dallas Goedert, but I see some potential issues. And look, I'm trying to talk about guys we haven't talked about before, having discussions we haven't had before. So this is part of this. But the potential issues to me for A.J. Brown are Devontae Smith takes another step. I think you guys have already said this, but also I believe they threw the fewest passes in the NFL to their running backs last year. I would expect that to change now with DeAndre Swift on the team. So it's basically just a lot of target competition. And usually when you have a wide receiver going in round 2 and another one going in round 3 on the same team, think about the amount of the difference in pass attempts we expect from the Bengals compared to the Eagles.
What about the Dolphins?
And the Dolphins. Yeah, good point. And they don't have tight ends that are part of the equation too. And they don't really have DeAndre Swift. I'm not going to put Devon A-Chain in that group. Maybe Mixon, he had a lot of catches.
Well, I would say Tyler Boyd's a pretty high-end third
Yeah.
receiver comparatively to most teams.
Yeah, I guess so. He doesn't make a huge impact, when those two guys are healthy. But I just think for a low pass volume offense, I think there's a lot of risk actually in taking A.J. Brown as a top 20 pick, specifically in a PPR league, because he usually doesn't catch more than 61% of his targets because he's a deep ball guy. So he might be an 85 catch guy. That's really not a lot. So you need the touchdowns. I don't want to make this a math problem. He's one of the best receivers in football. But if I were a projections guy, I wish Heath were here today. I do see some potential pitfalls in A.J. Brown.
I mean, you're definitely right. When you talk about where this is, but I think to go back to Dave's point, this is how you continue the evolution of Jalen Hurts. So, I don't think they're going to become, again, a very pass-heavy team. But that's the next evolution is they throw the ball a little bit more. So maybe it's 10% more, maybe it's 15% more. Whatever number you want to attach to it, because that's what they just told you. Again, you got to look at what teams tell us. They paid Jalen Hurts for a reason. And at some point, and I don't think it's going to happen this year, but at some point he has to go from, okay, now everything is 50-50, and I don't think that's the case, but 50-50 running, throwing, to where now it's a little bit slanted more to staying more in the pocket, a little bit more plays in the pocket. And we saw that in the Super Bowl. We saw how he threw the ball in the Super Bowl. It was fantastic. Maybe that's when he was finally healthy as well. So I think what you're doing in taking these two guys and adding Smith into the conversation is you're attaching yourself to one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And that's not a bad place to start. And then you look at the talent. Well, A.J. Brown has now been productive with Ryan Tannehill and Jalen Hurts as a developing quarterback. And so, again, that just continues to hopefully add to what his resume is. And so, yes, the big plays are not necessarily something you want to bank on, but he continues to make them in two different stops year after year. And so it just speaks to, I think, how good that he is. And so if that's something that concerns you, then you pass on him. Does Garrett Wilson have the chance to exceed A.J. Brown? Absolutely. You're pairing him now with one of the most accurate quarterbacks ever. And so he's going to be the alpha on that team. For me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is better than A.J. Brown in PPR because I think he's going to have more receptions and still continue to produce. So those are really the receivers that we're talking about. Then if you want to extend that to Jalen Waddle and T. Higgins, I get it. Waddle was awesome last year with Tua Tagovailoa, but the issues are there. So I think if you start to, go through the second round receivers, and that's not including, the guys getting pushed down ahead of him, the Devontae Adams and maybe CeeDee Lamb, I think A.J. Brown, again, is in that next tier. And it's just a matter of if you feel comfortable enough to take the number one guy with what might be the number one quarterback in fantasy, it's again, that's the starting point, I think, for any conversation you have with A.J. Brown.
Okay. I think that it's tough, that spot at wide receiver there in round 2. I feel like a little queasy with those guys in round 2. And that's why I think a lot of quarterbacks are going off the board there, not in our drafts.
Right. So that's your pivot.
Well, it also comes down to, what did you do in round 1? So did you go with one of those 5 or 6 running backs that are going to go in the first round? And then you want to not necessarily go running back. But if you go receiver in the first round, then you could easily avoid A.J. Brown, because now you're talking probably Josh Jacobs, probably Derrick Henry, probably Nick Chubb, maybe ETN.
Breece Hall.
If Hall's healthy, he'll be in that range. So yeah, there's a lot of running backs that'll be there. So if you go round 1 receiver, then you don't have to go receiver, and you have one of those top 10 running backs.
All right, let's talk about Rhamondre Stevenson, Dave. Trust or bust Rhamondre Stevenson. I've been seeing him in the 3rd round in a lot of our drafts. And am I missing him? He went 24th, last pick of the 2nd round. Yeah. Rhamondre Stevenson, let's say 2-3 turn in a 12-team league. Trust or bust?
I'm trusting him. And I know it's so dangerous trusting New England Patriots running backs. It's always been risky. But look at the Patriots depth chart and tell me who you're nervous about Stevenson losing significant playing time to. I'm going to give you the names. You just stop me if you're nervous about any of these guys. Ty Montgomery, James Robinson, Pierre Strong, J.J. Taylor, Kevin Harris. Now, did my connection break up? Because I didn't hear anything.
Probably, but my connection was probably broken up too, so I didn't notice.
Okay, I don't know if I've ever felt this confident about a running back going into Patriots training camp with the chance to be not just like their 1A, but their 1A, B, C, D. Like, I think he could end up doing it all for them. And it doesn't hurt that he averaged almost 15 PPR points per game last year. I've got him ranked as RB11. I think that's exactly where he should go. And I don't even mind if somebody who is nervous about A.J. Brown losing target volume, Amon-Ra St. Brown losing target volume, Garrett Wilson trusting a jet, Jalen Waddle trusting Tua Tagovailoa, and there's a running back run in front of them, going to get Rhamondre Stevenson because he figures to have a big role in an offense that should be better aligned this year with Bill O'Brien as the play caller.
Jamie, you've always trusted since the beginning of the offseason, Rhamondre Stevenson here. Still
Yeah,
trust?
I mean, I love him in round 2. I think he's got the chance to be, build off what he did last year. Dave sort of illustrated it. There's not a lot of players behind him on the depth chart that should take him off the field. And look, we'll probably go through a stretch where there's a Ty Montgomery weeks of out catching him, or Pierre Strong out catching him, or James Robinson maybe stealing a touchdown or two if he's looking good for the Patriots, if he even makes the team. So there will be one of those scenarios. But now you have still a run first team, a better play caller with Bill O'Brien there, hopefully a better Mac Jones. And so I think this Patriots team has a chance to be terrible. I mean, there's no way around it. You just look at some of the pieces that they have offensively, and it's hard to say, okay, this is a great team, especially since Mac Jones hasn't taken that step forward. But again, looking at what they gave him to work with last year isn't exactly fair. But Stevenson is the catalyst of this offense. He was last year, when Damian Harris wasn't there, and I think he will be again. So the receptions, I think, is what will sway him from being maybe a top 5 caliber running back to, hopefully just not a guy that's going to hover around the top 15, because he should be their goal line guy, should be their first and second down guy. And if he's involved in the passing game as he was last year, then he's got a chance for 50 catches in this offense. So I think there's just a lot to love about, Stevenson and his setup.